I thought AI agents would speed up my development workflow like crazy, but instead I got rejected twice by Google. I thought I would build this app like crazy with AI agents, but instead I was running into 2 rejections from Google, and I even thought like, okay, I'll just kill this whole app ID. This video is part of my From App ID to 10K MRR series that you can watch here. But even if you didn't watch all the previous episodes, the learnings in this video are still so valuable. Because when I built this app, I was running into like 5 different limitations that all individually changed how I approached this whole AI development workflow, kind of. And really, one of them really was like the deal breaker that almost made me decide to stop completely. So let me show you what happened. Okay, let's go in. I went all in on AI agents, right? So I even started another proof of concept. I created all kinds of pages. I really went crazy. You can see here, and I triggered these from walking the dog or sitting on the couch. And I really felt like, okay, AI is making me move so fast. And it did, right? Like I went really fast. I had a whole Mac app. You could see that in the previous episode already, with multiple different pages. And honestly, the output felt magical, right? Like I could see that proof of concept starting to come alive, and it didn't look great yet. It didn't perform that fast yet, but I really was building something. But I went all in. And with that, I mean, I was basically not writing any code anymore. And the problem that occurs is that this is the project and there are so many files in here. Like, I don't even know what all these files do, right? So I ended up with a project that was hard to follow, and the tech debt really grew rapidly. So at a certain point, I decided to focus, right? So to pick one feature, focus on that, remove all the unused code, because I had a lot of unused code, which makes sense, right? You're building a proof of concept and you kind of like want to try out things. But if something doesn't work, you need to clean it up. And my project wasn't set up at all for that. So I made an important decision. I started building for the Mac because I felt like, okay, this is the environment that I've been developing for the past months. But instead, eventually I started focusing on iOS. And why? Well, I could actually hold the app in my phone, try it out while sitting on the couch, feel like a real end user. That made me decide to just focus on a single page. Make that page perfect as possible and get that out into a beta. More about that later, but the key point here is that at first I really jumped deep into AI, built a lot of features, and I constantly were AI agents were running in parallel because I could. So I was building multiple pages at the same time, but I ended up with like quantity over quality, multiple pages with low quality. So my learning here is actually to resist the temptation to just build everything at once, but focus on a single thing and make that work as good as possible, get that out, and then continue working on the other ideas that you have. Not to say that these pages did tell me a lot, right? I learned from the proof of concept. I learned what worked and what didn't work. And it also made me decide, okay, which of all those pages is the best page to focus on. So I guess this is kind of like a learning curve when you do a proof of concept with AI development, and you kind of like need to embrace failure and embrace the fact that you need to jump into decisions and cut corners in a way that makes it more efficient to continue working on the product that you actually want to get out. So eventually I got to the point that I wanted to submit the app to TestFlight. So I did that. And then the rabbit hole kind of started. First, I got rejected by Apple, and I called the app optimized for YouTube Studio, and I submitted it, everything, and then this was the screenshot that they attached. Google hasn't verified this app. Okay, makes sense. Apple doesn't like beta apps, so it has to kind of like be release ready, even though it's an early beta. All right, let me get this app approved at Google. So the app uses Google for authentication, right? Like I ask users to log into their YouTube account with certain scopes, and to get that approved, I need to submit all kinds of things to Google. So at first I got this email rejection. Your demo video does not show the OAuth consent screen workflow. So I had to create a YouTube video. I had to actually create a YouTube account to create that video, upload it to YouTube, provided they didn't accept like upload a file or anything. No, the video has to be on YouTube. Annoyance number one. But then the real issue arrived. Your homepage and privacy policy domain violates Google API services. The thing is, I used ytstudiooptimizer.com as my domain name. My idea was I want to rank high for YT Studio on Google because that is a really good search term and the competition was quite low. So, that felt like a great opportunity. But and that makes sense, your homepage privacy policy domain is close resemblance of a Google product, YT Studio, of course. It made all total sense. But now think about it. I called my app Optimizer for YT Studio. My whole idea was planned around that name. So what I now had to do is, shift completely away from that name and come up with a new domain name and start that whole review cycle again. So from submitting a build to TestFlight, get it out maybe the evening was my plan. I'm now stuck in a whole Google review process. But what you do when you get such rejection is, well, you start thinking about an ID. I don't like giving up, right? So I dove into ChatGPT, into my custom project that I told you about in the previous episode. And I basically, shared the whole story of Google, it rejecting my app. And then what followed was a really long thread where I basically chatted with ChatGPT, like what are app names that I could use? TubeCraft, VideoFlow, TubeFlow, VideoQ. I mean, those names were quite bad, isn't it? And then at that point, I thought like, okay, TubeScale, TubeCraft, TubeWise, those are great names. Let's do it. Tube is in YouTube, right? So the name kind of makes sense. And then it gave pretty strong signals like TubeCraft is 3 stars and so on and so on. And this was not the only thing I did because ChatGPT can be quite opinionated, right? So I figured, let's pick those names and share them on socials. So I shared this poll on Twitter and I told people like, okay, I got rejected by Google for my domain. Which one of these names do you like the most? And of course there's a winner there, but I also only give the options that I had at that point. And I wasn't really thinking out of the box and thinking about it longer because I did this right after the rejection, right? Like there were emotions and I was just really looking forward to get that TestFlight build out and I wanted to do it as quickly as possible. But this forced me to step back and take some time to think it through. When you think about it, it actually is a good thing to do, right? Your name, it's just a name and it will, I built an app called Rocket Sim and people thought it was a rocket simulator at the beginning and now it's, making 6 figures in revenue. The name becomes a thing. That's what I mean. But still, the name will always remain, right? Like you want to think about it carefully. And something with tube, like TubeScale, feels pretty cheap when I thought about it more. So I continued this whole process and eventually I had a new poll, which became Video Studio, VideoCraft. And the winner here was Video Studio, but I only got 13 votes, so this doesn't tell a lot. But eventually I decided to choose a new name, which became video.app. The domain name was available, so that helped. And I actually created this landing page. You can fill in your email address. The link is below as well. So you can join the beta. The beta is not there yet at the moment of recording this, but maybe you're watching this and the beta is already there. So make sure to check it out. You can also see some screenshots of the current version of the app. This is actually already outdated, but I'll show you a video later in this video. But the point being is the rejection forced me to rethink what I was doing. And honestly, I was happy with the rejection in retrospect because now I got a name that feels so much more, like an identity, unique. Still video, if you say it, it's video, right? But you write it differently. I truly believe that this can become a great product again. So I went back to the drawing board. I updated everything. I created a new email address with video. I needed to create a new YouTube project with video. I needed to create a new App Store Connect account with video. And eventually I got all the links updated. The website was live on video.app. I could update the links to the terms and the privacy policy. And I started the new review with YouTube. And they quite quickly sent me a new rejection. Completely remove the direct integration that transfers Google user data to AI service. Okay. This was the moment that I truly thought like the whole ID that I had, I can basically throw it away. My idea was to use AI with YouTube metadata and optimize the description, optimize the title, optimize the keywords. Without AI, I could basically stop. But like I said, I like to embrace failure and I don't like giving up. I, at this point, was working 3 weeks on it. I started to believe more and more in the product because it was working, right? Like rejection didn't stop the app from working. I could still test it locally. And for my personal videos, it was already making an impact. So I wanted to push through. So I replied to the email and figured, for the AI service, would it be accepted if I send the data to local on-device foundation models from Apple, right? So the data doesn't leave your device and it doesn't go to a third-party AI service. Or even better, can I use Gemini? And the latter was accepted. And that was, I almost, got myself champagne to celebrate, because this was kind of like the best outcome. I'm using AI proxy. I could basically just configure Gemini, and all the code that I already had in place could simply be updated, and the whole app started to work again. So not much later, this email was sent, and basically this whole rejection story was solved. And this also opened the door for me to continue, go to TestFlight and update the app accordingly, get it approved. This whole journey, I'm working on the app for about a month now, taught me quite a few things, right? So first of all, AI needs structure. You really need to set up your project with an agents files, with rules, maybe with skills. Spend some time for a good setup. Even though it's a proof of concept and you want to get started as quickly as possible, I truly believe now that with a good setup that is probably, maybe it takes like half an hour to set that up, or maybe you can copy it from another project, will make your proof of concept more likely to become a success, or at least better validation, right? Like the outcome of the proof of concept will be a higher quality. So it helps you to better evaluate whether it's worth continuing. The thing I learned is that platforms shape your product. I'm heavily dependent on YouTube and on Google, and I wish that wasn't the case. It's all good now, and I don't really see a struggle now anymore. But I also created, for example, an audience page where I could reply to comments. And my whole idea was to make that a really optimized, almost like a messages kind of screen. And it's honestly still in the app, but I can't use likes. I can't use like the favorite, the heart symbol kind of action. I can't ping comments, basically just because YouTube doesn't offer an API for it, and that's where it stops. I'm dependent on the platform. If they reject me, I'm basically done, right? I got approved now, but otherwise I was done. And early approvals matter. If you're dependent on a platform, if you're dependent on an approval process, try to get that proof of concept approved, right? Like it could very well be that I worked 4 weeks on this app and I only found out after 4 weeks that my whole app wasn't even allowed to be built. And if that were the case, I threw away 4 weeks, right? So if you're working on something today, make sure to get those answers as quickly as possible. And AI helps, but it doesn't decide. I tried to get that new name, and it had a great story. AI is great at convincing, like, this is the right step, this is the right decision, Antoine, you're doing great. But in the end, you still need to make your own decisions. Think about it, take a step back, walk the dog outside, talk with your wife or with your husband or with friends or colleagues, and see, validate the whole idea that you're working on, right? Don't solely rely on your AI buddy. So where is the app today? Well, I'll give you a short demo. I got this tab bar now on iOS, and as you can see, I have an optimized page, an audience page, and a settings page. Yeah, the audience page is like I described, but it only allows you to kind of like in a chat form reply to people, but there's no way to like. Not really sure if this will remain in. The optimized page is really focused, right? So there's a priority here. This video is really the one that requires the most of my focus. And when I click on it, you can actually see that it lists a few basic checks. So I got a description hook that is in good shape. There's a check for chapters, but it's not relevant because this video is really short. There's a check on inline or end card. So if the video has an inline or end card in there or not, whether there's a YouTube link in the description, a subscribe link. Basically, these are all checks to make the YouTube videos more performant. And I also created a whole optimized flow for keywords, and there's a networking happening here, which you can check out if you will. But what it basically does, it fetches the transcript and it summarizes it, suggests keywords, and this whole flow asks the user to select which keywords are most prominent for this video. So I could say, well, iOS development for sure, and Swift conspiracy as well. Then I click next, and these are the recommended keywords that come from Gemini. So I could say, okay, Swift development, 6K searches per month, and it's a good opportunity score. Swift language as well. Maybe let's do Swift concurrency best practices just for this demo. I could eventually search for more text if I will, and then eventually it will analyze it all together, where it will send a summary to Gemini, uses the selected keywords, selected hashtags, and eventually it comes with an overview where it says like, okay, I recommend using these description hashtags and these video tags, and the user can decide whether or not they want to apply both. And then I can press apply, which I won't do for now because this will actually update my video, so I will cancel here. And yeah, and then there's also some overview of the description hashtags and such. The app is becoming more and more mature, and I'm getting closer to a stage where I want to send out the TestFlight build. I'm currently optimizing like networking. That's why you see the networking from RocketSim on the right side. And I'm also kind of optimizing token usage and edge cases and such. So if you're a YouTube creator, make sure to go to video.app, sign up for the beta. There's a link in the description as well, so you can get the first build as soon as it's out. If you're new to this YouTube series, I will update you again, maybe in a month or so, on where I am at that point, which challenges I faced. Make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out. And that's the end of this update. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you next time.